Thank you, Matt. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this session. My name is Tim Kreft. I am Regional Sales Lead for IP Fabric. I just celebrated my 7th years at this lovely company, and this is actually my 6th attendance at the Cisco Live. Not to brag, but we are quite a celebrity, a local celebrity with my solution architect after our standout performance last year at the live karaoke. But it's another story. I remember my very first attendance at the Cisco Live. It was back in 2019 in Barcelona, and we had a very small hidden booth, and we were desperately trying to catch people's attention and try to educate them on our emerging technology. And now I see today, it's the 4th time in a row that we are diamond sponsor of the event. We have a very large and central booth in the world of solution. So it's really with a great pleasure and a bit of pride that I'm presenting today with Andre and Calvin from NTT DATA, the result of our partnership in the AIOps space. So, guys, it's no surprise we're going to cover AI today, like almost all sessions you're going to see this week. AI is in the mouth of every single CIO, partner, vendor. Your leadership is requesting you to leverage AI capabilities in your process to increase the efficiency. But we see two main challenges to that. First of all, how can you trust the model? How can you trust the data? How can you base your important IT decision on a model, on an output that you don't fully trust? And second of all, how sticky will become the AI in your process if it's artificially plugged into your process in your tool without a real problem to solve? And this gives us a lot to think about and raise a fundamental question, which is guidelining this presentation today. So if you are intending on leveraging AI as part of your process, I want you to consider this. Is AI the means or the end? Am I adopting AI for the sake of the AI adoption? Or is AI the perfect tool to fix a problem worth solving? And this is exactly the second approach that took NTT DATA. They had concrete issues in the managed service space, and AI became the logical answer to answer that. So today I'm going to let Calvin and Andre present you, first of all, the challenge that raised this whole initiative, then the journey they took, and finally the result of their development effort into the Beeline platform that they are launching. Over to you, Andre.
Thank you very much, Tillman. I think like many of you, I started my career in frontline operations. I fondly remember doing L1 network support and Windows 3.11 support back in Port Elizabeth, South Africa. And I think many of you just thought, Windows 3. What? Yes, it was a very long time ago. Since then, I've always been in frontline operations, and this is where our journey starts, frontline operations. I was joining a late-night major incident call where a plan change had an unintended outcome. We caused a site isolation. And I was thinking, surely this is where AI could assist us to A, do a far more comprehensive and thorough change and impact risk assessment, and B, if something does go wrong, accelerate root cause analysis. 60 to 80% of service impacting incidents are caused by failed changes. What if we can make that less than 10%? Beeline was born out of real operational needs, real nights on real bridges, not a top-down AI strategy set by executives. Although, to increase efficiency and reduce cost, although those are side effects, it wasn't the main driver. Our dev journey. In my mind, this was going to be easy. We got data sources, slapped the LLM on top of it, Bob's your uncle. Then we started planning, and we quickly ran into some interesting roadblocks. Now, I'm not going to say much more about our dev journey today, but you can join us in the IP Fabric booth later this week. We will do some more behind-the-scenes stories and demos. What I will say is this. IP Fabric's digital twin and snapshot technology did make this entire journey far more less complicated for us, especially since one of our core design principles from the beginning was to be vendor agnostic. Introducing Beeline. All I want to say here is we made this for engineers to make their lives simpler, better, faster. Less grunt work, fewer mistakes, more time solving problems, less time digging for them. Just doing engineering work. And now why are you here? We're going to do some use case demonstrations today. Unfortunately, they can't be live today. But like I said, we'll do some live demos later this week in the booth. For the first one, I will be an L1 engineer doing an incident ticket. For the second one, Calvin will do a more complex change planning for an ISP move.
Think again.
And again. So here we have our ticket. All I did here was ask Beeline to do a root cause analysis, and I copy and pasted the ServiceNow information into the ticket. A user can't access an internal application. Yesterday it worked, today it didn't work, and all the necessary other information within the ticket. The user moved desks, they changed switchboards, they moved back to Wi-Fi, now they don't know which network they're on, and obviously the browser's connection timed out. Here we got Beeline coming back, we should get a nice path analysis. And now we can see that the Prague firewall is blocking the traffic, and if we look up at the details, we'll see the firewall policy that's also causing this problem. Now we know what caused it. We need to know what changed this behavior in the network in the first place. So what we're doing now, we're asking Beeline to check for config changes that could have caused this. So in the background, Beeline is pulling some RAG information, doing some config diffs, and we should get a summary back in a second where we see which firewall change it was and what's been removed and what's been added. We should see HTTP removed, and we should see HTTPS now being the only protocol being allowed. And there we have it, a nice description. What is there? A nice summary at the bottom. Now we can go back to the user, tell them to log a new request with the security team. Case closed. Over to you.
Thank you, Andre. Okay. So as Andre mentioned, I'll be running formal change planning. My use case is a little bit more open-ended, and hopefully I can show how Beeline can be useful to an engineer planning a formal change. Andre, if you want to go ahead. So to start with, what we'll do is I'll ask Beeline if it can pull a site diagram for me and explain the connection to the MPLS cloud. So here what we're looking for is just a nice, clear diagram of the site, something that we can get a quick handle on what we're working with, and an explanation of the MPLS connection to the MPLS cloud. So it would be nice to have some interface information, maybe some IP addressing, just some basic info about this connection. We should get a response in a few seconds. Here we go. Okay, so obviously the diagram, here we go. Nice clear diagram, shows us D5XR01 is the breakout to the MPLS cloud. And in the summary there we can see there is some interface information. GR01 is the interface, and there's a subnet being used for this link. At this stage I'm going to give Beeline a little bit more context, tell it we're cutting over to a new telco for the Helsinki site. I've told it which device and which interface the new telco will terminate on, and I've asked it to go and suggest some IP addresses we could use for this new link based on the current configuration. So obvious output here is we would like a /30 subnet to use, but something that's important is you'll see there's a show tool use toggle at the bottom. I need to make sure that Beeline is checking the actual configuration of the device, so we know that the answer is grounded in reality, not just a hallucination. So I'll wait for it to finish, and then we'll see, enable that toggle. Okay, so we're looking for a configuration RAG call up there. I can see it has queried the correct device. So now I know that its answer is grounded in reality, and we did get a 10.10212/30 as the suggested network. So very nice. Now I've asked Beeline if it can explain the routing configuration to me, specifically in relation to the MPLS cloud, and to break it down by routing protocol. As this is a demo environment, I obviously know that the primary routing protocol in use here is OSPF. So what we're looking for is a nice clear description of that OSPF configuration, some details about that, and then just a summary of the other routing protocols at play. So we should get our response in a second. Here we go. In the summary, at the top we'll see that MPLS is primarily connected via OSPF. There's a nice summary of the OSPF configuration, some details about it, and then the rest of the protocols are listed thereafter. Now, based on all of this context that we've gathered, all of this investigation that we've done, I'm asking Beeline if it can provide me with some CLI commands, something we can just copy and paste, and we could put it in a runbook, and we could use this as part of the change to just apply this new, switch over to this new telco. So what I'm looking for here, obviously, it needs to be correct, but I'm also just looking for something easily copy and pastable. So we'll see in the response, I get a nice config block that we can copy and paste. It's using the correct interface. There's a description, IP address looks good, subnet mask, and some additional details. So as a final test, what we're going to do is I have got a config block that I'm asking Beeline to validate for me. So in this situation, I've given it some commands, and I've asked what would be the impact of applying these commands to the device. And specifically, I have corrupted the subnet mask on this configuration. So instead of a /30, I've given it a /24. I know that'll cause problems. I'm expecting Beeline will highlight that for us. So let's see. At the top, it does give a nice little description to say, the primary problem is the /24 mask. It overlaps with many existing /30s and will cause serious routing and forwarding conflicts. It then goes into details on each of the other additional areas of conflict, and there's a recommendation at the bottom to don't use a /24, use a /30. Hopefully with that very quick and very simple use case, you can see how Beeline could assist an engineer with planning a change, validating commands, and hopefully just make their lives a lot easier. Yeah. Tillman, back to you.
Thank you, Calvin. We clearly can see that this is for engineer, and I guess it's more in a managed service context. But who is the audience for this? Is it for your own entity engineers operating large and complex customer environment, or it is also for the end customer to have better visibility?
So like I mentioned, first and foremost, this is to enable our engineers to work simpler, better, faster. However, we are planning a client front end, which will probably release in Q3 this year. So if we do have a managed service with NTT, you'll probably end up with a client front end as well later, Q3, Q4 this year.
Super.
But like I said, it's for the engineers first, enabling our teams.
Of course. And maybe another question for you, Calvin, because you have developed this platform, and I'm sure you have been through up and down. If you have few lesson learned to share with the audience regarding leveraging AI and trying to build something out of AI.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm not going to get into a deep dive of the challenges or the architecture here, but if you're interested in that, come to the booth. But I will say that this MCP Agentic AI solution is definitely the bleeding edge of technology. And if you are going to get involved with this, be prepared for multiple updates to dependencies every day. It is a extremely rapidly evolving space, and just trying to keep up has been a challenge.
Super. Thank you. Guys, we are slowly heading towards the end. I wanted to wrap up. Another question for you, Andre. How do you envision the future of this Beeline platform?
If you look at our future platform, we definitely want to add more data sources, like data is everything. We've built the engine, the model, and we're going to add an agentic AI agent on top of this to validate ServiceNow tickets before it comes to the engineer. So get into the pipe sooner. So by the time an engineer receives a ticket, Beeline would have analyzed it already. So instead of copying, pasting, we're just going to plumb it straight in from ServiceNow. So we'll have an agent check those tickets.
Okay, cool. Guys, if you want to see a bit more of this Beeline platform, if you want to see it live and see the extent of the platform and ask any question, as Andre and Calvin was saying, we're going to have two in-booth platform sessions. So one on Wednesday at 1:30, the second one on Thursday at 11. So feel free to come and ask Andre and Calvin every question that you have. If you want to reach out directly to us, feel free to come after this session, or you can invite us on LinkedIn, and we'll be more than happy to discuss your concrete case and situation. So now we wanted to thank you for your attendance. We wanted to wish you a very nice and interesting Cisco Live. And for those who would like to be interested in other type of performance, I see you on Thursday for the live karaoke. So thank you very much.